And welcome in, everybody. We are on the turntable here at Kufleitner's. This is absolutely wild. A familiar face for Coach's Corner. Andy Hake here with Kufleitner, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and then another guy. I should probably flip these around. But anyway, the Coca's Pizza, Boardman, Coach's Corner, Seth Antram, the coach of Boardman High School. Gentlemen, an honor and a pleasure. We had so much fun with Coach Spate last week.
Yeah, good times.
And the turntable now, as you see people, this is wild. People are going to be tripping out on this as they look in the background. But look at all these beautiful cars in the background. You can come get your own. Come talk to this guy. He's going to meet you at the door and say, hey, which one do you want? Pick it out.
Yeah, we're going to be good to him. How you doing, man?
I'm doing, brother.
Good to see you. Nice to see you, Coach.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Let's recap last week, boys, before we get to what we have on the agenda and the plate for this week. Lisbon played you tough.
Yeah, real tough. Yeah, absolutely. Our guys, they're learning to play 4 quarters, but we got to knock down the penalties. We had 200 yards of penalties last week. We had 150 yards of penalties the week before, and I told our guys we got to quit being the Miami Hurricanes of the 80s, man. I mean, we got to stop this. But, no, they played us tough. We've had, I think it was 387 yards of passing called back the last 2 weeks. Yeah, hey, Coach, you got to stop that, man. 4 touchdowns called back. But our kids play really hard. They just got to learn how to play, more controlled ball.
How do you stop the penalties? I know coaches say it.
Well, I'm sitting 4 guys the first quarter this week.
That's one way.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you know what? They're good kids, and the team. We have the team. That's not the situation. It's just sometimes individuals. They just play, I don't want to say out of control, but they're playing too emotional.
Yeah, get caught in the moment.
That's all it is. Yep. And you know what? It's an emotional game, but you can't play emotional. I don't know how, hey, guys, there's a fine line. And our kids they're playing really hard. They're very easy to coach. I love the kids. It's just we got to cut down on the penalties. And Latonia this week has, they're improved, and they have a nice line. Yep. They have a really nice line.
They're big.
They're real big, and their quarterback's a great runner. His name's Guido.
Yep.
He's a tough kid. And then a couple other runners. But, if we play our game, I feel confident about it. Our skill's really good, so, we're coming on. But you guys are playing good ball. You guys are playing tough.
Yeah, we have been. Last week we were able to put some points on the board. Like we've been, trying to spread it around a little bit. We talked the last few weeks. Been getting a little healthier than we've been.
Right.
And this week I think we're taking another step that direction as far as health. But, yeah, we were able to block pretty well up front, catch a couple passes early and score early, which is what we needed to do.
Absolutely.
Is that nice whenever you can rest some of your guys the second half, just because you know what's coming? I mean, you guys are going to run through a gauntlet here the next 5 games.
Yeah, our next 5 are – we're taking it one at a time. I don't even want to list them because I'm not thinking that far ahead. But we're going 1 week at a time, and it's a brutal 5-game stretch here.
I looked at the next 5, and it's just, the challenging games,
They are.
One by one.
This is where you earn your stripes, so to speak, and you guys really, your playoff starts right now.
Exactly. That's what I told the kids last night. Exactly. Like we kind of looking at it like it was a 5-game preseason, and now we're hitting our 10-game stretch is what we're doing right now.
How nice is it to have Terrence back?
It's real nice. Obviously, what he can do on the field. He made a couple cuts last Friday night that, you can tell he's special with the ball in his hands. But also just his leadership, and the guys have confidence in him, and it takes them up another level with him being around.
But you talk about that, but what about the guys that filled in for him when
exactly.
that was incredible to me.
Anthony Hightower, Tomas Anjahar, he started against Mooney at quarterback, got hurt in the third quarter. Anthony Hightower comes in after about 2 weeks of reps. Tomas just got cleared today, so that's what I'm saying. We're starting to get, getting a little more healthy. But, yeah, a whole bunch of guys. We've had, last against Howland, Joseph Era was out.
Yep.
We find out about 5:30 that he won't be playing. So we've done our fair share of shuffling the guys around and making it work, and the guys have done a heck of a job, responding to it.
When you take a peek at that next 5 games, that's one thing, right? But then you start looking at Boardman getting healthy, and you say, okay, this is where we wanted to be when we put this schedule together.
Yeah, and that's what I've been telling them. We played Jackson pretty well.
Yep.
20-14, we had some chances. We had a couple, what you were talking about, penalties, 2-3 penalties, killed us, And they're a good team. I'm not taking anything away from them, but we had our chances. But sitting here at 4-1 going into the last 5-game stretch is, about as good as we could be.
And back to you, Coach Hake. When you look at, kind of the rust that you knocked off on that week that you didn't play, did you feel confident looking at the tape this week, knowing that except for the penalties, you guys are still headed north?
Oh, it's us. It's not the opponents we play, it's us. So we just have to clean up our game. And he's like Coach said, he was playing Jackson. Well, you know what, when you play, that's a good team. And you know what, penalties against teams that don't have your ability, sometimes it's overtaken because you have talent, and we can do that sometimes with the schedule he has, and the tough teams you play, that haunts you, kids become deflated when you have penalties and and costly situations. So
Right.
yeah, I like our chances the rest of the way against all the teams we play, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic like that anybody I play.
Yep.
If I play the Chicago Bears, I would say, hey, look, we're going to go out there and I don't know about the Chicago Bears, but I like our chances against teams. We have, I believe in my guys, and kids take on the personality of their coaches sometimes. Well, a lot of times.
All the time.
And if you're up, and I just always felt if I'm optimistic, and I'm energetic, enthusiastic, the kids are going to be, and even when you're in tough situations. But, that schedule you have is tough. And you know what? It's penalties that I'm having, I was overcome because McDonald's not as I don't want to say, they're young, and they're not as veteran as they usually are. Because if you do that against McDonald on a normal year with 150 yards penalties, you're probably getting housed.
Yeah.
And Lisbon last week, we didn't know if they were going to be able to play. And they're going through a lot right now.
Yes, they are.
They're going through a lot right now. And Baltimore does a heck of a job because it was 28-7 in the fourth quarter started, and we had the ball at their 5-yard line. And we were going to score, and we had some guys that just did some things that were costly. And then, you know what? I wasn't worrying about winning and losing the game at that point. It was just, hey, guys, get under control.
Yeah.
And we have great kids, and I love coaching them. And we have the team. It's just sometimes things happen in games, and individuals, names are called, and they can't. It's easy for you and me to sit here right now being, calm and saying, hey, just turn and walk away. But when you're emotional and, you got to learn how to deal with that appropriately and still be able to play effectively and not cost the team. And I think if we do that the rest of the way, Wellsville and Southern have pretty good teams, and we can beat them. It's just, hey, guys, keep your heads. Columbiana Spade always has his guys playing with their hair on fire, so they're going to play us next week real tough. But I'm not really, you got, like you said, hey, it's the next game. So Latonia is the only game I'm worrying about. They're big up front, and we're going to have to execute. We have a couple guys down the first quarter, some pretty good players. So you know what, our other guys got to step up, and we got the guys to do it. They just, and they responded really well to what we were talking about yesterday. I mean, yesterday, sometimes you just got to talk to guys and the team and say we're not going to practice as much as we're going to talk.
That's
And
exactly
we're
where
going to fix ourselves. And I can make you run 200, 100-meter yards for every penalty and all the yards. But, this comes down to, more or less, controlling yourself and just, and the seniors talked and, it's when you respond. It's just that's how kids respond,
And like you're talking, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want them to go in there with a chip on the shoulder.
Absolutely.
But
yeah,
at some points not play emotional.
You don't want to exhaust them either.
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
if they're running, Tiger Run or whatever you call it, line in the field basically, and you get to a Friday and they're still battling,
your legs,
exhaustion.
Yeah, legs. And,
you're only hurting yourself in that scenario. So let me ask you this: John Maxwell, a great leadership, writer, talks about leadership is influence, influence is leadership. When you guys look at your locker room, who are the leaders that are influencing?
That's what the step we're taking right now. We have some leaders. We're trying to become more vocal with it, policing themselves. And they've responded. But, every football team has, I don't want to say an ego group, but they have, you have your guys that are going to want the ball and stuff and getting them to, maybe respond to another player's coaching or input,
100%.
It's another, I don't want to say battle, but it's a learning curve for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, we deal with that constantly. I mean, I have about 8-9 guys that really, with the ball in their hands, they're good.
Yep.
And it's understanding, hey, man, there's one ball, and there's 8 of you. And I can't even get you on at the field to say I have 4 running backs, and they're pretty darn good.
Yep.
And I have a freshman who might be the best runner of all of them. And it's tough because you know what? You want to – I mean, in a normal situation, if I had that guy at Western Reserve, this freshman running back, it would have been a no-brainer. But, where I'm at right now, there's 3 other guys that are pretty darn good, and they have to accept the situation for what it is. And we're one back, and we're 50-50 pass run. Right. So it's like, it's curbing egos, and it's getting guys to really buy. If our guys really play with the team concept that all the coaches want. All the coaches want their guys to be really selfless, but the teams that are always in it in the playoffs, and especially, I see the lower divisions, but in the upper divisions, the same thing. But in the lower divisions, you're always going to see Coldwater in there. Yep. You're always going to see Marion Local in there. You're always going to see South Range in there because they're established programs with coaches that have a real philosophy, and their teams understand, hey, this is what this is about. Yeah. It's not about you. It's about us. And, if we can get to that point, which we're really going in that direction, I couldn't have some of the practices I've had recently in August. I just couldn't have had them because I think some of the guys would have went in the tank or this is too much. And now I think that we're getting to the point where expectations and demand, and the first year there, right. You're getting in your philosophy, your way of doing things. And it's not that the last guy was wrong. The last guy was a great guy.
Exactly.
And he had his own way of doing things.
And we're senior heavy right now. And you're, I don't want to say, you're changing the culture of what they've been through, not just necessarily in high school, but, they're 7th grade on up, if not 3rd, 4th grade on up. And not better or worse, but different.
Absolutely.
How do you continue to let the story write itself, right? You're sitting here at 4-1, but still have your hand in finishing how it ends.
For me, it's relationships. I'm pretty real close with all the guys. You know what I mean? And you got to let them be themselves, like you're talking. But bring that team atmosphere to it and let them tweak, some things along the way. And they're going to lead themselves. They're going to lead some other guys in the way that they're comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Like I said, the one thing with us is I wish. We're working on getting more vocal. But other than that, they all get along. They're there for each other. They're there for the right reasons, the program. And they all go about it their own way. You walk in the weight room, everybody sees Joseph Fair lifting. They're going to lift their tails off because Joseph Fair is lifting.
Absolutely.
Terrence steps on the field. They're going to, take it up a step because Terrence is on the field. Sean, same way. Sean O'Horo, kid works his tail off.
Man, he's tremendous, isn't he?
He's awesome. I mean, he's
lightning fast.
You'll see him limping around, gets the ball, then
brave
he's
guy.
110% healthy again, just because of the demeanor and hard-nosed, attitude he has.
And that's the one thing with the best players, man. You know what? When you watch real tough guys, there's times after the plays, they look like, hey, this guy got to be done.
Right.
But then right before the play starts, they come alive.
They're
you know
gamers.
what I mean?
They figure out how to rest between plays.
Yes, and I remember that Remish that played for South Range a few years ago.
Peyton.
And just coaching through the years, 22 years of coaching, he was one of the best players I've ever seen because I watched him. It was like he would beat himself to death. And then it looked like, oh, this guy's banged up. And then right before the play, he came alive. Gamers, man. He was what you and you know what? If other guys are inspired by that, and it becomes, contagious. Like bad behavior is contagious, and good behavior is contagious.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
When you look at this, you guys, 2 skilled players from 2 local teams. Do you ever tell your story to your players of how you overcame? I don't want to say back in the day because you're not that far, separated from your playing days. But do you ever explain what it was like and how you overcame and how you grew into being leaders that you are today?
I don't necessarily talk about when I played. I talk about kids I've coached. I learned one thing when I was coaching JV baseball, of all things, down in North Carolina. Not that they don't want to hear what you did, but that's not going to affect them as much as just building that relationship and letting them know what they could be. You know what I mean? Letting them know the potential, and the spotlight's on them. I mean, we're there to guide them.
100%. I don't talk about war stories with them. I mean, you know what? Been in big games, won big games, lost big games. Yep. When you do it long enough, you're going to be in situations where, you try to tell kids experiences, not personal experiences, but, hey, maybe you kids haven't been here before, but our experiences as coaches, we've been here before. Yep. And this is how you win these games. Playing Norwalk, St. Paul, and playing Mogador and teams like that in the playoffs. Gloucester, Trimble, just small schools that are very powerful and have tradition and this excellence. They all have the same. They all have the same makeup. They all have the same DNA.
Exactly.
They're playing like their hair's on fire, and they're playing not for them. You could see they're playing for something more than themselves.
Yep.
It's not about them. When you play Mogador, you're playing the town of Mogador, and you know what? And I don't mean it like they're the best, but you know what? They're always there.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
culture.
That's
established.
Their dad did it.
Yep.
I was in the Coldwater. I was in the locker room before they played Kirtland a few years ago. And
wow.
And you know what? It was really something to see. Everybody was sitting down. And they'd call it the punt team. The punt team came up, lined up, and the coaches went down. And they weren't berating them, but they were on them before the game. Your brother did it. Your dad did it. Your uncle did it. Now you do it. Sit down. Kickoff team, come up.
Wow.
And there wasn't a big speech. The offense, come up.
Yep.
They all stood lined up, and it was really like, the hair on your skin was standing up because it was like you could make a movie out of that.
Wow.
And it was, this is what we expect from you. And you know what? They know. They already know this is what's expected of me. And then they play above themselves. And that's all, as a coach, it's all you're trying to do, get kids to do.
Yep.
Play as a team and then play above yourself.
Yep. Minimize mistakes.
And that's what it is.
And then it
man.
comes down to the game.
I love this. It's Coach's Corner. It's a combo Coach's Corner brought to you by Coca's Pizza and Kufleitner here in Boardman. Last question, guys, because you got to get back to class. I remember those days. We're creeping up on Halloween, so let's talk about fears. Fears on the field, fears off the field. Now, you tell your kids don't play with fear, but there has to be a little bit, in the back of your mind to help you excel. I mean, if you're scared of a dog and a dog's chasing you, you're going to run a little bit faster.
Right.
So what are your fears on and off the field, Coach?
As far as for the team?
You off the field for sure.
For the team, not that I guess, fear. My number one concern is getting healthy at the right time, like as far as that goes. And then the other end of it is, what you were just talking about. The kids not to be afraid to make mistakes, not fearing messing up. Go out there, play above themselves. If you have that state of mind, you're going to minimize mistakes. You're going to make plays because they've already been taught to do it. We've been doing this stuff since April.
Yep.
You know what I mean? In some type of workouts. Go let them be them and let them play.
Mm-hmm. What about off the field? Snakes? Heights?
Oh, I hate snakes.
Indiana Jones.
There he is, Indy. Anything else? Any other crazy? I'm afraid of high ceilings, and it drives my wife wild.
Snakes is it. And I don't care
gets
how
you.
big it is.
This
I'm
is
out.
good. Like sometimes the churches now have high ceilings. Like Powers Auditorium, can't go in there. Can't step foot in it. I get vertigo like you wouldn't believe.
Really?
I'm out. Peace.
Oh, my.
I haven't been to a movie since like Toy Story.
Oh, wow.
Can't do it. What about you on the field?
Where I'm at now, it's not, the human condition says we're, fear and you have all those emotions. But COVID bothers me. I lost a game because of COVID. Some things you can't control.
Right.
But, that's a fear of playing next week. 10 games are so precious. This isn't like any other sport. You only get 10. You have 2.5 hours on Friday night. You could practice. You're practicing for hours during the week, but they don't see you practice. The fans, the administration, the community, the Board of Education, they don't see you. Yeah. They see the product on Friday, and they want the product to be a reflection of how what you're doing in practice, and that's very difficult sometimes because you could have great practices. I mean, we've all coached teams that you said, man, these guys, they're not as good as these other guys that I've coached, but they're practicing their apples off. And I just wish that the Friday night you could reflect that kind of heart. And then you get trounced, and it's like, no, but we're tough. We're good. It's just, I'm for my guys, I'm afraid for them sometimes when they leave practice. There's social problems in the city that are probably as deep now as ever. And I have fears of that for them. I have fears of COVID. Because it stops us from doing what we love,
And there's a trickle-down effect. Like we had 3 guys miss practice last week for sinus infections. Had to go get tested, wait on the negatives, and you're practicing.
You're holding your breath.
4 days up,
and
4
it's
days
deflating.
a week, 2.5, 3
it's
hours.
It's deflating because guys don't know
gone.
if they don't know if they're going to be able to play. And we've had that last week. Like get tested for COVID. Now we didn't have them. We didn't have practice. I told them last Friday, during the United, because we were going to play United, we didn't have a game. I said, take the weekend off because I felt bad for him.
Yep.
And I said, you know what? Take the weekend off, come back, and the kid started getting symptoms on Sunday. So he wasn't around.
Yep.
But when they are around, it's like, man, how many guys are going to get this
Right.
tracing? How many? It's a real pain in the apple. And you know what? And then trying to go find a game.
Right.
And find a game that's competitive for you.
Right.
Because when Glenville calls or Villa Angela St. Joe's,
Yep.
that's not good for us. You know what I mean?
It doesn't do anything for you.
No, I'm not, nothing against. I don't want to. If Boardman said, hey, we're open, you're open, that's not good business for us. And you know what? I think our guys would play the game and they play hard.
Yep.
But you know what reflects what's good for your kids.
Yep.
And, that's tough right now, trying to find those games when this stuff pops up.
All right, off the field real quick, any fears for Andy Hake? Like crazy. Like snakes over here, heights, roller coasters?
Liberals taking over the
Oh,
country.
boy. That'll do it for our show today. We appreciate – no, that's funny.
Well, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but no, I'm with the country, man, and I don't mean that even being dude, I love our country, man.
Yes, sir.
And I think that, we have a lot of issues going on right now, and I say that in jest, but at the same time, some people watch baseball games, football games. I follow that stuff.
Yep.
I follow what, the country, and I worry about things and decisions that our leaders make. And personal fears, you want to stay on the planet as long as you can. You get one chance at life. It's
Yep.
precious,
Right.
and you want to live as long as you can. So you know what? I had COVID. I seen the devastation from it. And, our GM here, Denny Coleman, great guy.
Yep.
He passed the COVID last year. He caught it, and it killed him. And you know what? I don't know if it's COVID as much that I worry about, but you want to stay healthy. I have a 1.5-year-old son. I want him to be healthy, my wife, my family. So, I don't know about too much personal fears. I'm too busy. You know what I mean? You're too busy to sit
Yep.
around and worry about things other than I worry about the kids and I worry about my team.
I
you
love
know?
it. That what a great coach's corner, guys. Seth, thanks for coming in.
Oh,
Andy,
thanks
thanks
for
for
having
having us.
Hey, good
We
luck the rest of the way.
Appreciate it, man.
You're
You
doing
too.
a hell of a job
Thank you.
at Boardman, and they're lucky
Thank
to
you.
have you. And these next few games, I know they're tough. You guys can do it.
I
And
appreciate it, Coach. Thank
just do what you do, man, and let the chips fall where they may. Because
Exactly.
in the end, that's all we can do. We
Right.
just coach them up and be good to the kids and try to guide them from the side. Because in the end, that's all we can do. We guide from the side. As much as we
it.
want to
Yep.
run out there and do it.
Yep.
Hey, you got to stop at the line and. Sometimes I forget. I can't will the team.
And then that's it. Yeah.
You know?
I'm big on being an offensive guy. I have the quarterback calling plays. We're not out there with them as
Yep.
much as we want to be. Like we talked, all that other preparation, and then Friday nights is them. So
They cast the final ballot,
Yep.
and that's just how it goes, man. And as as I get older, I used to think I could will these games. Like I can will this, and then it's like you can't.
Right.
You just got to coach them up during the week, and then that 2.5 hour window. Man, it's tough
Closes
because
quick.
free will's a son of a
it.
gun.
Thanks to our sponsors, Coca's Pizza and Kufleitner's, for hosting us, especially on this turntable today. Hope everybody made it through without getting sick. And we will see you next week right here on Coach's Corner with Andy Hake and Seth Antram.